The reason that my optimism was higher is because my self-awareness was lower, meaning and here's the definition of self-awareness from the assessment here. Emotional self-awareness includes recognizing and understanding one's emotions. This includes the ability to differentiate between subtleties in one's own emotions while understanding the cause of these emotions and the impact they have on one's own thoughts and actions and those of others. So I had low low ability in that area. And then I had low reality testing, but my optimism was higher, which is the optimism is an indicator of one's positive attitude and outlook on life. It involves remaining hopeful and resilient despite occasional setbacks. What is going on, EQ gangsters? Check this out. Really interesting insights from a recent coaching client that I want to share with you all. I'm learning so much from every single client that I have an opportunity, every single leader that I have an opportunity to work with my coaching business. And so thankful, so blessed, so humbled to be able to work with so many phenomenal, amazing leaders. And again, I'm literally learning new insights with every single leader that I work with, which there's so many reasons why I'm so thankful to do this work, to be a coach, to be an executive coach, a leadership coach in the area, especially in the area of emotional intelligence. Selfishly, again, because I'm growing every time with every person I sit down with. There's a verse in the Bible, Proverbs 27:17 is iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I literally get sharpened by everybody, which again, selfishly is a tremendous blessing. Plus, I'm so thankful for the opportunity to add value, add a lot of value, add transformational value as a result of being able to use my gifts and strengths. So while every appointment takes a lot of energy, it's great because it's like working out. It's like doing jujitsu. I love doing jujitsu. It's, I work out at Prime BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Colorado Springs. And our professor is a 4th degree black belt named Professor Marcelo Mata. Incredible guy, humble, an animal. He is an animal. He's no joke. And the opportunity to learn and be surrounded by some of these wonderful people, but it's like rolling. It's like doing jujitsu, because while jujitsu takes energy and emotional energy and focus and mindfulness and presence and awareness, and obviously physical energy and everything as well, same with coaching for me, because for me, I show up to every appointment fully present, fully mentally, emotionally, physically present. And it's a blessing. It's a tremendous blessing. A tremendous blessing. Y'all, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to do what I'm doing. And find that for you, right? Find an area that you can live your best life through utilizing and adding value to other people by expressing and utilizing your strengths. So whatever that is, maybe not be coaching for you. Maybe it's, there's zillions other ways to do that. But I'm just telling you, I'm very, very thankful to be in the position that I'm in right now. And also with the potential to even be scaling soon. So this episode is sponsored by Lima Charlie Network. To get more details on Lima Charlie Network, go check out limacharlienetwork.com. It is a group of military, active duty, and prior service military and or affiliated with the military podcasters and influencers that have some tremendous content out there about leadership, about growing yourself, growing others. limacharlienetwork.com. So the insight is, I recently sat down with two people that have the highest emotional intelligence of anybody I've ever assessed before with the emotional intelligence assessment that I have access to, being a certified emotional intelligence practitioner. Now, there are a lot of emotional intelligence assessments out there. This particular one has a couple unique characteristics in that it is a psychometric scientific assessment that a number of scientists and researchers and psychologists put together. And it's really fascinating. The background on it was put together by an Israeli psychologist who was embedded with the army to assess what factors impact a military leader's decision-making process. And this assessment, there's 15 different aspects of emotional intelligence that impact it. They, based on 15 years of research, 20 years of research, pulled together and determined impact a leader's decision-making. There's 5 big areas: self-perception, self-expression, interpersonal, decision-making, and stress management. What makes this assessment unique is that it specifically builds out and assesses 2 areas, stress management and decision-making, that impact every single leader on the planet. So for me, I think it's a great one for leaders. The interesting insight that I had from working with this one particular leader recently is that this individual had a very, very high, again, the highest assessment that I've ever assessed out of probably 100 leaders at this point that I've assessed. And just because somebody has high emotional intelligence, whether across the board or in one of the 15 subscales, does not mean there's not So there's two insights. One, and I'm a perfect example. I had, when I took my assessment, high emotional intelligence in the area of optimism. That's one of the 15 subscales, optimism. And my coach asked me, my EQ coach asked me, Noble, why do you have such high optimism? Well, I immediately responded, well, it's because I'm a positive guy. I'm a sanguine choleric. I'm, for the personality plus people, for the disc people, it's the influencer, dominant personalities. And I'm like, that's just how I roll. That's just that kind of personality default. And I said, wait a second. I answered that question too quickly. Let me think about it for a second. Thought about it for a little bit, did some quick reflection. Here's what I discovered. I had low self-awareness. I had low reality testing. Self-awareness is one of the 15 subscales on this assessment, and also reality testing, which is I'm reading, for those of y'all watching on YouTube, I'm reading this, the exact definition off the assessment. Reality testing is the capacity to remain objective by seeing things as they really are. This capacity involves recognizing when emotions or personal bias can cause one to be less objective. That's reality testing. The capacity to remain objective. Okay, so I had lower self-awareness, I had low reality testing, I had higher optimism. And so he said, hey, what's kind of going on there? What's the relationship between those three? Why are those two lower and optimism higher? And again, my immediate response was, hey, I'm just a sanguine choleric. I'm just influencer, dominant personality. That's just how, I popped out of the womb positive, happy-go-lucky guy. Then did more reflection. The reflection is this. The reason that my optimism was higher is because my self-awareness was lower, meaning and here's the definition of self-awareness from the assessment here. Emotional self-awareness includes recognizing and understanding one's emotions. This includes the ability to differentiate between subtleties in one's own emotions while understanding the cause of these emotions and the impact they have on one's own thoughts and actions and those of others. So I had low ability in that area. And then I had low reality testing, but my optimism was higher, which is the optimism is an indicator of one's positive attitude and outlook on life. It involves remaining hopeful and resilient despite occasional setbacks. And so the insight was, because my emotional self-awareness and reality testing were lower, I had higher optimism because I used it as a coping mechanism. I used optimism as a coping mechanism, and that came from my toxic positivity that I learned from my being a people pleaser addict. My toxic positivity was my which on the assessment shows up as optimism, which was my coping mechanism because I had low self-awareness. I had no, and not just of my own emotions, but of others' emotions. And then I couldn't handle the emotions that came from looking at reality objectively. And so I didn't allow myself to process or experience or feel any emotions on the unpleasant or uncomfortable scale of emotions. Notice I didn't say bad or negative, because there's no such thing as bad or negative emotions. It's just unpleasant or uncomfortable, because emotions are just data. It's just information. It's not good or bad. It's all data. And so you can have high scores, you can have high emotional intelligence for unhealthy reasons. Sitting down with this leader recently with very, very high emotional intelligence, again, the highest of any leader I have ever assessed in the past couple of years. This leader, and I asked this leader, hey, have you been working on your emotions? Have you been working on your growth in the area of your emotional fitness for a long time? How did you start your emotional growth journey? What did that look like? And guess what came out? It started from trauma. This leader had trauma, and as a result of the trauma from the father, which many, many people have gone through and experienced, that started a deep, intense reflection and introspection into, why am I this terrible bad person that I'm getting abused by my father and also mother? Both parents were abusive. And again, this is not uncommon, unfortunately. Hurting people hurt people and are easily hurt by people. Hurting people hurt people and are easily hurt by people. And so that trauma over years led to a tremendous amount of reflection and introspection and connection and a feeling of, man, I am not lovable, I am not enough, which led to people pleasing, which led to I am not going to be the victim anymore. I refuse. I will not let anybody bully me, abuse me, push me around. And so the fascinating thing was, and many of us do this as a result of trauma. So I'm sharing this one leader's story, but many people respond this way. This is not an uncommon or unique response to this particular leader. I mean, it is in that this was this leader's experience, but many people, this is a common response to trauma for many people. This leader became very, let's see, I'm trying to use the right verbiage here. Very, I don't want to say aggressive. Aggressive is too strong. Very bold. Let's say bold. Became very bold. Very offensive. Not like offending people, but like a good defense is a better offense. And to prevent the remote possibility of becoming a victim, this leader developed a tremendous offensive game for life. Now, again, on the outside, what does that look like? Well, man, that looks like a tremendous emotional intelligence. That looks like a tremendous leader. And clearly, this leader is a phenomenal leader, great leader. realize that we all, and this is my story, not the exact childhood story, but the consequences, the results of emotional neglect, the results of trauma, the results of abuse. For some people can go south, for some people can go north. So have you looked at why you do what you do? 100% of the leaders I have coached over the past 20 plus years, exhibit behaviors as an adult as a direct result of our childhoods. So it's not, is your childhood affecting you and impacting you? It's how is your childhood impacting you as an adult, and to what extent is your childhood impacting you as an adult? Have you figured out the emotional origin stories of your behaviors, of your good behaviors, and of your maybe your productive, healthy behaviors and your unproductive, unhealthy behaviors? Have you done that introspection, that reflection, praying, journaling, looking and really seeking out? Because where those behaviors may have served you at one point in your life, those, maybe, again, for this particular leader, it was a survival mechanism, which all of us, develop as a response to trauma and that kind of thing. But what's important as a, someone that's working on and growing your emotional intelligence is that place from where you're coming from, is that an emotionally healthy place? And even if it's creating positive results in your life. I've had people say, well, Noble, but if I address that trauma, or if I try to work through some of those things, will I lose my drive? And that's a very real question. It's a great, excellent question. I will, and can I answer for everybody? No, of course not. Let me just answer for me, because again, my disclaimer: I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor. If you need professional help, please seek out professional help. For me, so again, my story, again, very similar to this leader's, in that what happened to me is I became a driver and a performer and a leader because people pleaser addiction, toxic positivity, emotionally needy, emotionally codependent, all my dysfunction. But again, it was coming from a very unhealthy place. As I've gotten healthier emotionally these past 4 years, now I can drive and perform and be coming from an emotionally healthy place. I'm not, the reason why, and now you may say, well, okay, well, what's the difference if the outcome's the same? Well, there's a huge difference. A huge difference. I'm not emotionally exhausted anymore from trying to please everyone with every single decision I make. I'm not exhausted of, pushing myself 16, 18 hours a day with no rest, no sleep till Brooklyn, just for the sake of trying to please somebody and seeking out validation, approval, and affirmation from everyone else around me. I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'm much more aware of, in fact, just yesterday, I'm like, normally I work in the evening also to knock out stuff, that I haven't got done with. I've got to work on and dial in my op tempo, my schedule and stuff. I've got to develop some new systems and some new processes. But last night I'm like, nope, I'm going to chill tonight. I'm just going to hang out with the fam. I'm not going to do any work, and I'm going to go to bed early, because today I've got back-to-back appointments, coaching appointments, and I've got 7 hours of coaching today. So, which is a lot. Again, it's a lot of emotional energy that I'm putting out, because I'm emotionally 100% showing up for every one of the leaders that I have the opportunity and privilege to work with. So I think it's important to really do that journaling, that homework, the reflection of, why do you do what you do? And not from an intellectual, like, oh, I want to become financially independent, I want to provide for my family. Those are all important. But what's the emotional reasons, the deep, look under the hood and challenge yourself. Am I doing this? And I've met a number of leaders that are doing stuff to, in fact, he was a law enforcement guy who's got like 3 or 4 degrees. I'm like, dude, what on earth? Why do you have so many degrees? And he thought about it. He said, man, you know what? It's because I never was good enough for my parents. And I think one of his parents, maybe both of his parents, have even passed away, and he is still behaving as an adult to try to reach and seek out that approval and validation from his parents that he's quote unquote enough. And this guy is a very, very successful, had a tremendously successful career in the military, law enforcement, and doing some other great things. So that's exhausting. So he's taking time away from his family, away from all kinds of other things that he could be doing, hobbies, but instead he was still continuing to pursue like a second or third master's degree, right? So, when is the last time you've done like a behavior audit, a decision-making audit, and really sat down, okay, what are some of my, and again, don't just look at the unpleasant or unproductive or unhealthy maybe behaviors or habits that you have. Look at those positive ones too. Look at those productive ones. Where are you coming from? What place are you coming from in each of those areas, each of those habits, the productive ones, the pleasant ones, and the maybe unhealthy, unproductive ones as well. Do that whole research and look at yourself objectively. Put those behaviors, those habits, a habit audit, behavior audit on paper and look at them like a third party would. Look at them as an objective third party. And I know that's difficult, but it takes emotional intelligence to even do this exercise, right? Is try to look at those from an unbiased perspective, almost again third party. Step out, look at yourself again as a consultant would, who doesn't know you and is just kind of assessing you from your behaviors and your habits, again from pleasant and unpleasant ones, or productive and unproductive ones, and really ask yourself, why am I really doing this? Why am I really pursuing this just job or this career, this profession, this degree, this hobby, this anything? And it may reveal some emotional work that still needs to be done so that you can be coming from an emotionally healthy place. And I don't feel as emotionally oppressed and emotionally burdened and emotionally overwhelmed all the time. It's amazing. And again, I didn't even know I was feeling all those ways until I've gotten emotionally healthier and I've lost emotional weight, so to speak. Now, am I emotionally healthy? I don't know that I'll say that, but I'm emotionally healthier. And, running a mile, when I'm 60 pounds overweight, feels a lot different than running a mile when I'm 10 pounds overweight. So I feel so much different now in everything I do, professionally, personally, family, friends, whatever, because I'm not carrying around all this emotional burden of coming from this emotional unhealthy place of being emotionally needy, emotionally codependent, emotional, toxic positivity, wherever unhealthy grid I was coming from. I'm not coming from that place anymore. So that was my coaching insight from a couple leaders that I worked with recently. And I just want to say how proud I am of you for pursuing this tough work. It's tough. It's not easy. Again, it's like jiu-jitsu. I just read a story on this Facebook group I'm on. It's jiu-jitsu folks over 40. This guy's like, hey, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 2 weeks now, and I'm getting destroyed by everybody, and I'm not used to getting destroyed by everybody because I'm a successful business guy. This is crushing my ego. How do I deal with this? And literally 110 comments of people like, welcome to jiu-jitsu. So, and one of my comments was, jiu-jitsu is great for pride and ego because you have to check your ego at the door. You will be humbled every single roll for the first couple of years, more than likely. And even then, in just about every single gym you go to, there's probably somebody in the gym that will keep your ego and pride in check. So I love it because it is very humbling. I just got destroyed a couple times from this black belt professor, John Herrera, who has a podcast called Mentor Podcast. It's a great podcast on Spotify. Mentor Podcast with another good buddy of mine who's also a coach of mine, John Roy. And both of them destroy me every time. And they both like to roll with me, and I like to roll with them too. And they destroy me. And it's, I can't go in prideful, and I got to manage my expectations. And it's anyway, phenomenal experience. You guys rock. Emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally. Emotionally healthy leaders create emotionally healthy outcomes and organizations will create emotionally healthy cultures and organizations which create and maximize and optimize outcomes, results. Thank you so much for sharing, subscribing, rating, reviewing. Man, if you wouldn't mind taking 10 seconds, 15 seconds to rate and review the podcast. Again, maybe share the podcast episode or an episode that has impacted you. It would mean a tremendous amount.